All right, let's jump right in. We're talking about IGCSE administration today. And look, I get it. The moment I say admin, you're probably thinking about paperwork, deadlines, maybe a little bit of stress. But I want us to reframe that today. This isn't just a chore to get through, this is a mission, and it's absolutely critical for protecting your students.
To really get a handle on just how high the stakes are, let me ask you this. Think about all the work a student puts in. Months, sometimes years of studying, practicing, preparing. What's the single easiest way for all of that effort to just vanish, to count for nothing? That's it. A simple administrative mistake. A missed deadline, uploading the wrong file, ticking the wrong box. It's kind of terrifying, right? So getting the admin right isn't just some boring part of the job. It's the final shield that protects your students' hard-earned achievements. So here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll talk about why this admin stuff matters so much. Then, we'll map out the whole exam year so you know what's coming. We'll dive deep into the moderation process, the fairness check. Then, the really practical part, building your own zero-error toolkit. And finally, we'll look at what mission accomplished truly feels like. Okay, first up, let's get to the heart of it. Why does this all matter? Well, it's all about protecting your students' success. You know, every single form you fill out, every deadline you hit, it's not just for your school. It's part of this huge global system that ensures quality. When you nail the administration, you're turning all your great teaching and all their hard work into a qualification that opens doors for them anywhere in the world. It's really an act of professional care. All right, let's move on to the roadmap. Think of this as your GPS for the whole exam season. It's predictable, which is exactly what we want. So, the Cambridge cycle breaks down really nicely into 5 key phases. It all kicks off in the fall with registration and planning. Then you've got the long stretch from November to April for teaching and internal assessments. After that comes sample submission, then the big one, external exams in June, and finally, results day in August. See? It's a marathon for sure, but it's a manageable one. But here's the one rule to rule them all. This isn't my advice, this is a direct warning from Cambridge, and it could not be more clear. Deadlines are not suggestions. They're not flexible, they are absolute. And missing one, especially for something like the speaking component, can mean a student gets no grade. It's that serious. Okay, now let's dig into a really important part of that roadmap, the fairness check. You probably know it as moderation. Now, this process is not about Cambridge second-guessing you or judging your marking. It's all about making sure the system is fair for every single student everywhere. At its core, moderation is just a quality control system. It's the process that guarantees a student in your class in, say, Dubai is being assessed to the exact same standard as a student in London or Tokyo. It's basically the engine that drives global fairness. And there are 2 sides to this coin. First, you have internal moderation. That's your team's check-in, where you and your colleagues make sure you're all on the same page. Think of it like a team huddle. Then you have external moderation. That's when Cambridge steps in to make sure your school's standards line up with the global standard. That's the official review. So if you've got more than one teacher assessing a subject, internal moderation is a must. And the process is actually pretty straightforward. First, you all get together to standardize, to make sure you agree on what the criteria mean. Then you go off and assess your own students. Next, you cross-check a sample of each other's work. If you find you're marking differently, you discuss it and adjust the marks. And the final, crucial step, you document everything. And here are the traps you want to avoid. The biggest mistakes schools tend to make are not keeping records of their meetings, only checking 1 or 2 students' work, which isn't enough, just averaging marks without talking about why they're different, and of course, the classic, leaving it all until the day before it's due. Steer clear of these, and you'll be in great shape. So, you've done all that work, you've submitted your samples, what happens next? Well, there are really only 3 possible outcomes. And here's the really reassuring part. By far, the most common result is that your marks are accepted just as they are. Occasionally, they might get scaled up or down a bit if you're a little harsh or a little generous across the board. Rejection is incredibly rare, and it usually means something went really wrong in the process. This brings us to my favorite part, the most practical bit, building your zero-error toolkit. This is where we talk about the systems that turn good intentions into guaranteed success. Let's look at a real-world example of a system that just works. From the British school in Egypt, they use what they call a triple-check system. It's simple, but genius. First, one person is the designated owner of the master timeline. Everyone knows who's in charge. Second, they have a formal, written-down moderation protocol. No guesswork. And third, this is the key.
A second teacher always peer reviews all the forms before they're submitted. It's a human firewall.
So what's the big takeaway here? It all boils down to this. Don't rely on one person's memory. We're all human, we all make mistakes. You have to build systems, create redundancy, and have checks and balances in place. That is the secret sauce for zero-error admin.
And here are the tools you need to have in your own personal toolkit. Make sure you have the School Support Hub and the Samples Database bookmarked. Always work from the current syllabus and the Cambridge Handbook. And maybe most important of all, make friends with your school's exams officer. They are your single most valuable resource in this whole process. And that brings us to the finish line. Mission accomplished. This is the payoff. This is what it looks like when your fantastic teaching is supported by equally fantastic administration.
So what's the goal? What's the magic number? It's this. 0. 0 admin errors. 0 invalidated results. 0 students left wondering what happened to all their hard work. This number isn't just a target. It's our promise to every single student we teach. Ultimately, it just comes down to this simple truth. You pour so much of yourself into crafting amazing lessons, inspiring your students, and giving thoughtful feedback. That level of professional excellence deserves to be backed up by an admin process that is just as solid, just as flawless. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. Just take a second and look at your own process, how you handle timelines, how you do moderation, your final submission checks. What's one thing, just one small part of that system that you could make a little bit stronger starting today?